Musical Talk.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of Musical Talk. Two short features this week. The first one is going to be an interview that David Herzog did with Elliot Davis about Fings, Aint What They Used to Be, that is playing at the Theatre Royal Stratford East. If you are interested in seeing this wonderful classic British musical, you can visit stratfordeast.com for more information. Then we're going to have a short feature that our dear friend Robert Gordon from over at Goldsmiths University did about Mickey Rooney as he recently passed away. So I'm going to hand you over to those two features now. Do enjoy them, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Elliot, welcome back to the program.
Pleasure to be here.
Today we're talking about Things Ain't What They Used to Be. Please excuse my silly American accent as I pronounce the title of this show.
It's Cockney and so it doesn't quite ring. It's sort of like a bit Mary Poppins, Dick Van Dyke. But
exactly.
We're not judging you, so that's good.
Excellent. So why don't you just start off by telling us what the piece is about for our listeners who don't know the synopsis?
Things Ain't What They Used to Be was written by a guy called Frank Norman, who was an ex-con, ex-prisoner, who came out of, and he wrote about the Soho of the time, which was his late 50s Soho period. And Joan Littlewood picked it up and did it here in 1958. And she realised what it needed was some great songs. And who better to turn to than the hit songwriter of the time, Lionel Bart. He'd had hits for Anthony Newley, Do You Mind, he'd written Living Doll for Cliff Richard, and all the Tommy Steele hits. So he came in, and he listened to these actors improvise, and what he did was take the essence and rhythm of what they were saying and turn them into these wonderful songs that capture the essence of Cockney Soho. And it did really well, and people hadn't seen Cockney accents or the gangsters, spivs and prostitutes of Soho, London portrayed on stage. So Joan was maybe trying to be alternative, but actually what she did was be very commercial because the audiences loved it and it transferred to the West End.
Right.
She said it's a bit like Guys and Dolls, but with its flies undone, and that was her. That's all she wanted.
Brilliant.
And so I've always, for me, when I first heard it, I thought it. What was beautiful about it was maybe Oliver was 1960, so it was just before he was writing Oliver. But you can hear all those absolute beautiful melodic gems and the talent in this score that was to come out in full flow in Oliver. But this is a real score to be cherished. I was delighted to be doing it again here in Joan's centenary year of her birth is fantastic.
And so, stylistically, how does this piece compare to Bart's other work?
It's funny because I would say that Lionel has a trademark of being fantastically melodic and at times lyrically brilliant, and this score is up there with all of that. So I think if you're a Bart fan or you're interested to see what did he do just before he did Oliver, which is of course a masterpiece, well, this is what he did. So it's intriguing for all those reasons. So I've adapted the music, but I've also reorchestrated a lot of the music and upped it, but I've also readapted the script. So I've taken the essence of what the script was, and everything was in a very funny place, and not how an audience would respond to a musical today.
Okay.
So I've rewritten a lot of stuff, and what's been nice is being allowed to raid the Bart catalogue for his other pop songs that people do know. So we've got Living Doll in there, we've got Do You Mind, we've got Sparrows Can't Sing, which is a song from a film he wrote for Barbara Windsor. So there's a lot of good stuff in there.
Excellent. So why the decision to bring the piece back now? Is it purely because of the centenary of Joan Littlewood's birth? Or?
Well, I was involved in a production of it at the Union Theatre a few years ago, and I wanted to commercially test it and see, is it relevant? And it really is relevant because the themes are timeless, and those are such themes as changing environment around you, suddenly being out of place, time moving on, and how do you adapt. And the audiences really respond to it, and they also really respond to it because of the nature of how fantastic the score was. It's coloured and peppered with such wonderful characters, prostitutes, gamblers, spivs, bent coppers, it's a great world. It went so well at the Union, I wanted to make it even better, make some changes to it, really get into the script, tackle that, and we did a workshop last year at the Old Vic. Various theatres came to see it, including Stratford East, and this is the perfect place for it.
And how was the casting process for the show? Were you a part of that?
Yeah, sure, everyone, yeah.
And have the cast been settling into the piece then?
No, they've been great.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some people that I've worked with for a long time, some Susie Child, Ruth Adams, who I've known for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse and Gary Kemp was in our workshop last year, and he's absolutely fantastic in this. And then Jessie Wallace came on board, and what was weird was this was a part she had always wanted to play.
Mm-hmm.
So she's got out of EastEnders for a bit, and here we are. And she's just superb. And what people won't know about Jessie is her voice is fantastic. Genuinely, she can just do it right off the bat. So we lucked out with an amazing cast. Also Ryan Malloy, who was starring Jersey Boys for all these years, and you want to see. I mean, you just come to see Ryan do his thing, because it is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't say why it's unbelievable, but it is unbelievable.
Fair enough. And what are some of the characters that these different performers are portraying?
Lil is an ex-prostitute played by Jessie Wallace. Gary Kemp is a bent copper.
Okay.
Ryan Malloy plays Horace, a very, very camp interior decorator.
Amazing.
Which he does just fantastically. Yeah. Christopher Ryan, who people will know as Mike from The Young Ones, does a comic turn in this, which is just a joy to behold. And actually what's emerging in an ensemble is this is an exceptional cast of super talented character actors. And they're just doing it great. So, yeah, super excited, yeah.
Excellent. And what can you tell us about the design of the piece? Because in some of the press material that we've been looking at, it says that it's an authentic revival of the original. Yeah. And that seemed to bring a lot of images to mind about how the set may look, how the lighting may be. Could you speak on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've got Bill Dudley, who is one of our master set designers in this country, and it's pretty extraordinary. I won't tell you some of the features, one of the main coups that he's done, but it transformed from an illegal gambling spieler den underground in Soho into something sort of that they think is contemporary, is the song that Lionel used to call it. So they turn it into something contemporary, which actually is just worse, sort of more gauche, no taste at all. And they all look like gangsters, prostitutes and spivs from the 1950s. But it's weird, because what's great about this piece is that it borders the cusp of turning into Cool Britannia in the 1960s. So they've got an essence of the cool in there. And where they arrive in sort of, I see it like as a journey from austerity Britain in the 1950s to the cool Britannia of the 1960s. And that's the evening you're going to go through.
Excellent. I think the last question we have for you today is, what does it mean, we touched on this a little bit, but what does it mean specifically to have this piece back here at Theatre Royal?
Well, I've been involved in Lionel's work for a long time. Lionel Bart, to me, was a mentor. He was the first person I worked with, and he gave me my first advice when I first started writing musical theatre. So he's very dear in my heart, and to see his show back on, beautifully directed by Terry Johnson, I can feel him beaming behind me. So for me personally, to be able to do this is a great joy. For the theatre, it's one of their most successful heritage pieces, and the timing of it was perfect. So to be back in this theatre is a great, great joy. But it has to be said, the cast in this has come together in the most exceptional way. So uber excited. And really, one of the great things about Stratford East is that it's cheap tickets. Yeah. Because this is an Arts Council funded building. The most expensive ticket you can buy is £17. You will get a fantastic evening. So yeah, I'd say come see it. But I would say that, wouldn't I?
You're a bit biased. That's okay.
Yeah.
Elliot, thanks so much for being on the program again.
My pleasure.
We'll look forward to the great things this production has to offer.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Thank you.
Musical Talk.
Mickey Rooney is probably now the last of the great Hollywood stars of the 30s and 40s to have died. I think this really is the end of an era. He, sadly, because his later career since the 1950s was such a disappointment, we don't remember him in a live sort of way as the great performer that he was. But I think he was the number one box office star in the late 30s. I think he was a great young actor. He not only played, I think, with Spencer Tracy in Boys Town in the 30s when he was about 12, or may have been younger. He played at about the age of 13 or 14 the most brilliant Puck in Max Reinhardt's great film for MGM of his of course legendary stage production. He did a number of stage productions of A Midsummer Night's Dream, and Rooney was a very intelligent and very very clever Puck. I think he was only about 13 or 14 when he did that performance, and it's clearly the performance of someone who's not just been trained to do it. He knows what he's doing, and he understands the comedy, and he's working against Jimmy Cagney, who's a brilliant bottom. So he was already a star by 1936. He then teamed up with Judy Garland for probably the most successful part of his career, and everybody knows the Love Finds Andy Hardy, the Andy Hardy movies, where he's the star of the series. Garland appeared in a number of them. Other Lana Turner and other glamorous women appeared in some of them as very young women, and then that set up the formula for the backstage musical, the Judy and Mickey Let's Put on a Show in a Barn kind of musical, and those again were legendary. They are part of American cultural history. Rooney had an amazing range. I think as a young performer. By this time, he was an adolescent performer, 18, 19, 20, but he looked much younger because he was so short. I think Judy Garland, who was only 4'11", was the only female co-star who was as short as he was. So all the other female co-stars that he played with were half a head higher taller than him on screen. And I think that's what affected his later career. But the point about Rooney is he could, I believe, although a lot of the music making is actually dubbed, but I believe he could play an instrument. He was a very good, very proficient, if not great, dancer and tap dancer. He could sing better than Gene Kelly, actually, when you listen carefully. And he was a good mimic, impersonator, and a reasonable actor, certainly a good comic actor. Now, he wasn't a great talent in the way of Judy Garland. He didn't have depth in his talent, but he could do everything else that Garland could do in the way of comedy. The sad thing for Rooney is, unlike Garland, whose early death left her still, although people dispute this, but still a great stage star when she died. So she remains a legend. Rooney, unfortunately, from the 50s onwards, where Garland went into a new phase of her career in 1950 and became a great stage star, Rooney never found... he continued to act until 2012, I think, but he never found any roles that were suited to his talent. And because he was so tiny, Hollywood, of course, consigned him to playing eccentrics and a Chinese character, very, very bizarre, in Breakfast at Tiffany's. He's probably most remembered for Breakfast at Tiffany's in the early 60s of his later roles, but that is a very demeaning experience for the most popular male movie star in 1938, 39, 40 to have ended up playing, rather patronizingly, of course, a Chinese character in a film starring Audrey Hepburn. And he went on, playing those sort of roles to the end of his life. He never stopped working, and of course, whenever he could, he went on stage, famously with Ann Miller in Sugar Babies. These were somewhat grotesque, although you could still see the immense talent of both Ann Miller and Mickey Rooney in Sugar Babies, but they were exploiting their fame rather than being given new vehicles to try out their great talent.
What is your personal highlight of his career for you? If you could time capsule one performance, what would it be?
Well, I think there's not one performance. I think there's about four. I think all the Mickey Judy, Babes in Arms, Babes on Broadway, Girl Crazy, all of those, that series is Mickey Rooney at his height.
Of 4 foot something rather.
Absolutely, of 4'11". But he was a towering star in Hollywood. There's no question about that.
This episode of Musical Talk is copyright 2014.